Welcome back to the Renaissance Times podcast. My name is Cameron Riley. With me in the cold chair in Virginia is block of ice Ray Harris.
Thank
Iced
you.
tea, ice Ray, iced
Oh, I
Ray.
like that. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you. So,
We are talking about the Siege of Antioch. This is part two of the Siege of Antioch. We during the First Crusade, late 1097, beginning of 1098. In our last episode, we were talking about how the Crusaders had blockaded Antioch towards the end of 1097,
mhm,
but they're running out of supplies, they're running out of food, it's starting to get cold. They don't have enough men, they don't have the siege engines. They need to really take this amazing fortress of Antioch with
right.
400 towers and huge walls. Meanwhile, Yogi Bear, the governor of Antioch, doesn't have enough men to defend it. Also has
Right.
to worry about his supply lines. So neither side are really attacking the other side. They're both waiting for relief forces to arrive and just trying to do the best they can to wait the other side out. Whoever gets the relief forces to arrive first are going to have an advantage.
Exactly.
So that is where we are at.
Well, again, I think it's important to realize that the Crusaders, they've been on a roll. They have just been kicking ass and taking names. They come up to Antioch, and they knew it was going to be difficult, but now they are truly stymied. And you're right, it's all about supplies. They're running low on food. They're running low on faith. Let's be honest. Some of them are like, is God on our side? I don't know. I don't, if he is, he's a shit teammate. So the point is that they are really starting to struggle, and it's getting cold. And I don't know about you, but wearing armor in the cold, that kind of sucks too. But the point is, it's become a waiting game, and that you can't speed up outside events, and their faith starts to weaken.
When they had first arrived outside of Antioch, there were plenty of sheep and cattle in the nearby plains. The granaries of the villages around the area still contained most of the supplies from the year's harvest,
Oh yeah,
despite the fact that Yogi Bear in Antioch had been trying to get as much of that inside the walls as he could. But they had managed to feed well the Crusaders,
too
but
well.
they had neglected to put away supplies for the winter months.
Right. Okay.
Possibly an oversight, possibly thinking, oh, it'll all be done in a week. They're like George Bush when he
Right.
was like, in
Yeah.
one and done, in and out, 2 weeks, mission accomplished. But it drags on. It's starting to
Exactly.
drag on. Now they had to go foraging over an ever increasing area, which meant they were more likely to get off by the small Turkish sorties that were being sent out of Antioch to cut them down as they were returning. If there
Mm,
are stragglers coming back from foraging parties, they're hiding. The Turks are hiding in the bushes,
right.
jumping
Yeah.
out, attacking them.
Ah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking what they, yeah. So around Christmas time, 1097, the food's almost gone. The countryside's bare. Um, and we're going to say this a couple of times. The princes of the Crusaders, they hold a council. And here's what they're going to do. Step one, you get together and someone gets out the whiteboard. They decide that Bohemond and Robert of Flanders are going to take some troops and they're going to go up the Orontes Valley towards Hama, another smaller city. They're going to raid the villages in that direction. Meanwhile, Raymond and the Bishop of Lepoy, I'm not sure how to say that, will conduct the siege because Geoffrey at this point is very ill. So at least they've got a plan. We're going to go try to raid, as God intended us to do. You guys start harassing the walls, and maybe between these two things, we can actually move the needle a little bit. Not the best plan in the world, but it's something. So Robert and Bohemond set out on December 28th.
With about 20,000 men.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Yogi Bear knew immediately about their
Yeah,
departure
he got the
from
facts.
word getting back into his camp.
Yeah.
So he waited until they were out of sight and then on the 29th attacked across the bridge and fell onto the Crusaders who were camped north of the river.
Yes.
The attack was not expected, but Raymond's quick thinking saved the situation. He quickly rounded up a group of knights, charged out towards the Turks,
Damn right.
who turned and fled back across the bridge.
Yes. And
Hooray! Success for the Crusaders.
But it gets better.
except
Well, except and yet it almost gets better. Remember when they first got there, Raymond is like, "Okay, who wants to attack now? Who's with me?" And sadly, no one else was raising their arms. When they chase this Turkish party back to the gates, they almost get there before the gates were closed. This could be it. This could be the thing that turns the entire battle. Maybe Raymond was right the entire time. However, and I'm not blaming God. I'm not saying God had anything to do with this, but one of the knights, Horus, throws his rider. It's dark. There's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of panic. They don't know what's going on. Did the horse throw him? Was he knocked off by an attack? They start to panic and they retreat. And now they are being chased back by the Turks to their camp. But the good news is when the Crusaders get back to their camp, they turn. They start to fight. The Turks know that they can't take them, so they go back to the walled city. But the point is, they almost got inside one of the gates, but it doesn't happen. Again, it was a close run thing, but this is what they're doing. They're literally pricking each other, just taking as many men out of each side as you can, trying to weaken their overall force.
and when the horse throws the rider and turns back onto the bridge, it creates panic and confusion in the Crusaders' cavalry. A lot of them end up in the water.
Oh shit!
Um, and they're dead, lost horses, lost cavalry. So lives were lost on both sides, but
Yeah.
especially among the Crusaders. Meanwhile, Bohemond was riding south with Robert of Flanders, totally ignorant that a huge relief force was moving up towards him.
Oh
Duke
shit!
Cock, Duke Cock of Damascus, had left his capital with Yogi Bear's sons and a huge
Right.
army at Hama. The emir joined them with his forces.
Oh shit!
On the 30th of December, they learned that the crusading army was close by, and they immediately marched on them and came upon the Crusaders the next morning at a village called Al Barra.
Yeah.
Now, the Crusaders were taken by surprise, and Robert, whose army was a little ahead of Bohemond's, was nearly surrounded. But Bohemond, being the badass that he was,
Right.
quickly reacted, kept the bulk of his troops in reserve, waited until the moment that the Muslims thought that they had won, and then attacked from the rear and manages to inflict such heavy losses on the army from Damascus that they retreated and fell back to Hama. So it was sort of a win for the Crusaders. However, they
Conditionally.
lost a
Right.
lot of people.
Right, but here's the thing. So again, Bohemian is a brilliant tactician. He's using psychology here. He's like, I'm going to wait. They're attacking the Turks are attacking Robert's men. I'm going to wait till the enemy thinks that they've won. Then I come in and I charge and I save the day. I freak them out. They panic. However, because of the injuries, the deaths that the crusading army has suffered, they are now not strong enough to keep going. So they sack a village or two. They don't get much out of it. They return to camp. Again, it was a decent plan, but because they're weakened just enough, they're no longer an effective fighting force. And when they go back, they don't have much to show for it. Again, the troops are still starving.
Yeah. And, to be fair to Bohemond and Robert, I mean, their troops were probably already hungry, tired, cold.
Yes.
In the
Yes.
first place, not the best
Sucks.
conditions for an army to be in. But so they
Good point.
return more or less empty handed
Yeah.
and then discover that they've lost a lot of the cavalry. It's been sort of a minor crisis and disaster while they're away. The army camped outside of Antioch is expecting them to come back with food. They come back with nothing. So
Right.
the Christians are starting to second guess themselves. They're like, Jesus, God, not
Jesus.
really.
Yeah.
Jesus, take the
Yeah.
wheel, give it back.
Please. Please. Give
Yeah,
me that fucking
I
wheel.
think,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who let
And
Jesus drive? Fucking hell. Whose idea was
and
that?
And while they were gone, it wasn't any better for the guys that stayed behind. Again, on the 29th, when they were attacked, that did not go well, as we said. The next day, there's an earth tremor, and this isn't just a little. Oh, look, the curtains are shaking, honey. This is felt as far away as Odessa. The other guys, what's his name? The other guy who runs that place now. So this is
Alec Baldwin.
there we go, Baldwin. So this is a big thing. And that evening, the aurora borealis lights up the sky. I mean, God is sending them signals left and right. That's like, God, just if I shouldn't ignore my wife and bang this 18-year-old, just give me a sign. And the earth shakes and the aurora borealis lights up the sky. And then the guy goes, just any sign, God. Just tell me I shouldn't do this. And then heavy rains come for weeks. And all the while it's getting colder. They're cold, they're shivering, they're hungry. This sucks. And then Stephen of Blois has had it. And he's like, maybe God isn't. He either isn't all powerful or he's not on our side. What do you think?
Yeah, these people being primitive Christians, and I think that's a redundant term, just Christians who believe in Bronze Age
Right?
mythologies, then as now, see these things as signs. And the Bishop of Lipoi declares that they have to fast for 3 days, and they're like, "Motherfucker, I haven't eaten in a week." Like, really? Like,
Oh, we're going to put a name on it
what?
now? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what difference
Yeah.
does it make? We've been fasting for weeks.
I am an
Um,
expert faster at this point. Yeah.
yeah.
They're like you. They're having to go out and
So
buy new pants. They have to tighten their belts. It's
they're
just sad.
starting they're starting to think that maybe God is not pleased with them. And
Right.
instead of just turning around and going home saying, look, maybe this was the bad
This
idea
is
from the get go,
bad juju.
they're like, maybe we just need to not eat, continue not eating for a few days. That's really what he wants. Because, I don't know about you as a loving father, but for me,
Right.
whenever I'm displeased with Fox, I starve him for a week.
It's
Because
it builds character.
that's what
Yes.
loving parents do.
It's a
Um,
lesson. It's a lesson.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
lock him in a
Eh,
basement, chain him up,
right.
and starve him for a week because I think that's how I show my love. That's the Christian way of showing my love
Right.
is extreme torture. I
Well,
waterboard him, of course,
right. Well,
morning and
yeah,
night
that's
during that period
it's worth
because
it's worth the water
uh,
bill. Yeah. Yeah.
spare the rod, ruin the child, or whatever it
Right.
is.
I have a slightly different approach. Whereas you starve him to death, what I do for my children is I charge them for the food. I know you can eat, but your ass is paying. So
You
here's the
charge
bill.
at
Here's the
them
bill.
with a
If
sword
I have to, if I have to.
on a
But no,
horse.
so slowly, some of the Armenian monks start sending supplies. Some of the Christians, Armenians, and Syrians scrap just whatever they can get together, and they start to send it to the Crusaders. And as they get there, the Crusaders are going, thank you, thank God, thank Christ. They're like, up, not so fast. You are Crusaders. You've been sacking towns left and right. You got cash. So we got food. You got cash. Maybe we can work something out. So they say for one donkey load of supplies, it will cost you 8. Is that Byzants? Again, this is a decent amount of money. The Christians hate giving up any kind of cash, but they do because they're starving. The problem is only the wealthy soldiers can afford this. So as is normal in human history, the wealthy eat, the poor starve, the horses start dying, and pretty soon they're only down to 700 horses. But so other Christians come to help them, but it comes at a price, literally.
Well, we said a few episodes ago about a Byzant.
Mm-hmm.
A Byzant was a gold coin used widely across the Byzantine Empire.
Right.
Byzantine Empire. So that's where the word comes from.
Uh-huh.
It weighed roughly 4.5 grams of nearly pure gold.
Mm.
So one Byzant back in the day, the purchasing power was enormous. It was a small fortune, a single Byzant. You could buy supplies for an army with a single Byzant or
Damn.
sustain a family for months.
Right.
So,
8%.
yeah, like
Fuck.
converted into modern currency, the estimate that I came up with using ChatGPT a few months
Sure.
ago was a single bazant would be worth somewhere between 10 to 15,000 US dollars, a single bazant.
Jesus Christ. Jesus
So these guys are selling a donkey's worth of food for, let's say,
Christ.
hundred
Right.
grand, the
How bad
equivalent
do
of
you
a
want
hundred
it?
grand for one donkey's
Yeah.
worth of food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, hey,
What's it
it's
worth to you?
capitalism, bitch.
Yeah. It's
Capitalism,
right.
you know?
The way God intended. So
That's it. Don't
pay up.
blame me. Jesus invented capitalism. At the point, I don't think you mentioned this, but
No,
1 out of 7 men was dying of hunger. Not to
this is
mention the
real.
horses who
Yes, this
were
is real.
dying at a greater rate because they were getting none of the food. And then they were eating the
Yeah.
horses like Napoleon's troops had to do
Fuck.
in the retreat from Russia in 1812.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and unlike Napoleon's troops, these guys didn't have gunpowder to put on the horse meat to hide the taste.
Right. Fuck.
um,
Fuck.
you know,
Yeah.
you're hard up when
When you,
gunpowder is what you're using to hide the taste. I haven't
you know,
eaten gunpowder, but imagining it's not the best of spices.
when I bite into a raw or cooked horse leg, the first thing I say is, you know what, this could use? This could use some fucking gunpowder. That's what I'm saying. You know, just to finish off the taste. But no, so they are truly hard up. Men are dying. But again, it's all for religious reasons. So I like to think they're going right to heaven. I don't know. I wasn't there. But it's bad. It's bad.
So they're sending envoys further and further away, as far away as the Taurus Mountains, to try and get some food.
Mm,
Um, but it's still very, very tough. I think at this stage
yeah.
there are only about seven, but between the disaster with the attack on December 29th and the horses dying of starvation, there's only
Right.
about 700 horses left. So their cavalry now is down to 700 riders.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're a knight, do you need a horse? If you don't have a horse, are you still technically a knight, or could you use two coconuts? I mean, what are horses important?
Knightish. You're
Night,
night
night light,
adjacent at that
night
point.
light.
Yeah, night light. Yeah.
Anyway, it sucks to be them.
Look, you stand in front of the enemy and go, listen, I just want you to close your eyes,
Picture.
breathe deeply, picture this. I want you to imagine for a moment, if you will,
Right, right.
that we're all riding fearsome mounts.
Steeds, yes.
Over the course of the next few hours battle, can you please just ignore the fact that we're using coconuts? And that would be great. If you could accommodate us in this fashion,
Right. That's only
we
fair.
would genuinely
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Or even better, if you could just go ahead, hop off your horse, and that's a fair fight because you got
That
a
would be
guy
fair.
and I got a
Like,
guy. It's a fair fight.
yeah. Now, fortunately, the Bishop of Lipoi had been able to establish contact with the former Patriarch of Jerusalem, a guy by the name of Simeon, who
Wow.
had retired from Jerusalem when things got a little bit too hairy there and was now in Cyprus, not
Yes.
just in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. I think it still
Yeah.
is at that point.
Right.
And he was sending them. Now, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, not a big fan of
No.
the Catholic Church,
No.
but he Christians, enemy of my enemy is my friend, this
Sure.
sort of thing. He's like, okay, he's going to send them stuff from Cyprus, all of the food and wine that
Yeah.
he could spare, but even that
Not
wasn't really enough.
wasn't doing it. Yeah. So he actually sends a report um, with the Bishop of Lipoi back to the West, how the Christians are doing. And yeah, like you said, he's gathering everything up. He's letting Europe know what's going on. But as we showed earlier with the 2-year delay, it takes time for word to get there. It takes time for them to do something about it if they're going to do anything about it, and it takes time to come back. So again, it's about surviving right now. But it's still, you do what you got to do, but you also have to survive in the moment.
Mm. So people are abandoning the army. They're like, fuck God and the horse that he rode in on.
Because I ate it. I ate
I,
God's horse.
yeah. And two of the people who deserted were Peter the Hermit,
Yeah,
the guy who
yeah,
led the People's Crusade, which got
that went well,
destroyed,
right?
and then he fled back to Constantinople, and now is
Right.
joined and had joined the Prince's Crusade. You know,
I Yeah,
second
I
time
I
lucky.
I think his selling point was, "Hey, I'm a good luck charm. Take me with you. It's gonna be got it tight, tight.
He's like, I got it. I fucked up the
I
first time. I'll
screwed
be
him the
the first
first.
person to admit that. But I figured out what I
Mea
did wrong.
culpa. Yeah, ego, ego on my
I've got it
face.
worked all out. Yeah, yeah. And he was accompanied by a guy called William the Carpenter.
Right,
I don't
not
think
conqueror.
I don't think we've talked about him before, but he was the Viscount of a place called Melun, which was in France. These days, it's sort of on the outskirts of Paris.
Mm,
Uh, French nobleman who was part of the First Crusade. He was known for his strength in battle, which is why he
hell
got the
yeah.
name the Carpenter. He
Could,
was just chopping them
right.
down like they were trees and blocks of wood.
Sure, sure.
Uh, According to the 12th century monk Guibert of Nogent, William was powerful in words, but less so in action. A
Oh
man
yeah.
who set out to do things too great for him.
Oh, podcaster.
So
Right. Yeah.
he he had a reputation back home. He was
Right.
accused of criminal looting of the countryside.
Oh. Oh.
He When he joined the First Crusade, he took from his poor neighbors the little they had to provide himself shamefully with provisions for the journey. He
That's a
took
good
part
Christian.
on the attacks of the Jews at Mines. He was not
Opportunist. Oh,
necessarily,
sorry.
yeah, he wasn't the nicest of Christians. Um, so anyway, he decides, fuck this bullshit, I'm out of here. And he runs off with Peter the Hermit and they try and escape in the middle of the night.
But no one quits God. Again, I think that's one of the commandments, something like that. So Tancred, Mr. Gentle, and others are sent out to bring them back. They are grabbed up. They are brought back, and I'm going to let you tell the story. But Peter the Hermit, I guess he had a better PR team or whatever. It's like, everybody kind of knows him, so we're going to take it easy on this guy. Not so much the other one, but we're gonna give Peter a pass, and he became known as Peter the Pass. But the point is, they got to punish them somehow.
Hmm. Well, Peter the Hermit gets pardoned. He's sort of still, along with the Bishop of Lapoy, who's the Pope's representative. Peter is still sort of he's the mascot. They
Yeah,
dressed him up in like a
yeah.
chicken outfit. It was a goose. It was the holy goose that he had on his
There we
crusade.
go. There we go.
They dressed him up as the goose. He's sort of like the holy mascot of the crusade. They don't want
Give him
word to get out that the most
right.
faithful of the faithful
We banged
said fuck
Peter.
this and tried to.
Yeah, right. We
Yeah.
slapped Peter around. Yeah, you can't.
He
You
was
can't.
wearing the rock hard for Peter. Are you rock hard for
You
Peter the
can't.
Hermit?
You can't touch him if he's wearing that. I think we all agree on that one.
He couldn't really, he didn't want to make that known too publicly. But William the Carpenter, on the
Oh,
other hand,
fuck him.
according according to one of the sources, he spent the whole after he was captured, he spent the whole of the night in Bohemon's tent lying on the ground like a piece of garbage.
Mm,
Bohemond made
Mm,
him wait all night and then rebuked him as a wretched disgrace to the whole Frankish army.
right.
Mentioned how he had deserted the French army in Spain in 1087.
Oh, oh.
So he had a history of
That's
this.
right.
The other leaders asked Bohemond to spare him, and
Right.
he suffered no further punishment and then deserted the army again
He promised not
in
to.
June of 1098.
But he had his fingers behind his back. So I think we all know promise doesn't count. So currently it's January 1098, right in the middle of fucking winter. Again, he promises never to leave again. And then he leaves again. So, but again, the army is starving. There are other deserters. This just sucks. Again, the Bishop of Lipoi is sending out more requests to the West for reinforcements. And again, it's just the shit time to be a part of this crusading army.
Interestingly, when the Bishop of Lipoi is sending requests back to Europe for support, he's writing them in the name of the Patriarch of Jerusalem.
Mm,
We would imagine with his permission,
one would
but
think.
it's fascinating because obviously the Bishop of Lipoi, Adamar, is part of the Pope's brigade. He's the Pope's
Right.
representative.
Mm-hmm.
The Pope's a Catholic. Don't know if anyone, I don't know if you knew that, but in
Yeah.
your brief time as a Catholic, you might have heard about that. The Pope is a Catholic, supposedly.
I did something. Something.
Although people
Anyway.
aren't very, a lot of Catholics aren't very happy. I know Catholics who are not happy with the current Pope at all. They're Trump supporting Catholics who think the Pope is a complete tool because he criticizes Trump.
Don't, yeah. Don't.
And
Who's
they
the real
pick
true
Trump
savior?
over Pope.
Exactly. Exactly. He's closer to God.
Yeah. And the Patriarch was the Pope of the East. Basically, of course, the Eastern Church has schismed from the Western Church. They're rivals. They both consider themselves the leader of Christianity, but he's appealing on behalf of the Patriarch of Jerusalem, which is an interesting dance to do.
Good point.
Um, and at this point in time, the Crusaders, they're starving and they're starting to become conspiracy theorists. They're on
Oh, yes.
all the conspiracy subreddits. They're watching Fox News. They're subscribed to
Oh,
QAnon updates.
yeah.
They're blaming
Dominion
Anthony
voting.
Fauci. They're
Exactly.
blaming
Exactly.
China. They believe that Bill Gates is putting computer chips in their head, that 5G cell towers are causing cancer and autism.
Fact.
They're,
Facts.
they're starting to lose their damn minds.
Well, they've got too much time on their hands. I mean, an idle army, I think history shows, it can be very dangerous to the surrounding area and to itself. And there's nothing good going on, and they just got time to sit around and make up shit. And that's exactly what they're doing.
And they're starting to blame the Emperor Alexius back in
Yeah,
Constantinople for all of their problems. What happened
sure.
is early in February, so they've been here since
October.
November,
Yeah.
late
No,
October, early
right.
November. Early February, nothing's happened. They're still just sitting there with their dicks in their hands. Um, the emperor's representative, Tatikius,
Right.
suddenly leaves and goes back to Constantinople.
Mm,
Now,
mm.
he had a small staff with him that had joined them in Nicaea, mostly guides and engineers, people who knew the lay of the land. He'd been on
Yeah.
good terms with the leaders. Now, when he gets back to Constantinople, the story he tells the emperor is that Bohemond
Right.
had called for him one day, told him that the it was known inside the army that the Turks had troops coming to support them,
Right.
and that the other leaders of the Crusader army, believed that the emperor was encouraging the Turks because he hated the Crusaders and he
Right.
was talking behind their backs with the Turks, plotting to destroy them. That's
It's
why he
Conspiracy.
hadn't sent them supplies. It's why he hadn't sent them siege engines. It's why he hadn't sent them, more men, more troops. And that Tatikius believed these stories enough to get the fuck out of Dodge.
Oh, I'm in danger. I better get the hell out of there. But as a, I don't know if you want to call this a gesture of goodwill or cuntiness. I'll let the listener decide. But when Tactitius leaves, as a gesture of goodwill, he leaves his small staff behind. To which I'm sure they said, "Thank you." But the point is, he leaves, and this is how bad it's gotten. Tacticius can't win for losing. As soon as he leaves, Bohemian's captains and some of the other royals go, aha, aha, see, he fled. He fled because he's either a fucking coward, and you know God doesn't like fucking cowards, or it proves his treachery. So again, they are just willing, they're at the point where they're just believing the worst in their own allies. But here's the kicker, and you've got to love this. I don't know if this is a Christian thing. I don't know if this is a capitalist thing or a Christian capitalist, but they said, wait a minute. Let's take it the next step. If the emperor is betraying us, then that breaks our oath to him. So if God is on our side and God is good, if we do take Antioch, doesn't that mean we don't have to give it to him? So they're able to take this paranoia, delusion, whatever, and they can still turn it to their economic advantage. You've got to fucking love that.
Yeah, they're like, well, fuck our oaths
That's
to
right.
Alexius that we would hand over any territory we captured to him. That's done. Now anything that we
Exactly.
got is ours. Now, of course, they had already intended to do that, as we know, and Alec
Yeah.
Baldwin had already taken Edessa and gone, fuck the
Yeah.
emperor. So this is just a good way of justifying their treachery against the emperor, which had been the intention all along. Next, Bohemond decides the time is right.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
weakened, they're demoralized, people are deserting, Tatikius has left, that it's time for him to start spreading a rumor around the camp that he also was
Yeah.
thinking of departing the
It's
army.
time. It's time.
He had to get back home. He had things to take care of
I
back
got
home.
shit to
Like,
do. Right.
I just realized I left the gas on.
It's been a
I better get
while.
back and take care of it. Why would he spread such a story, do you think, Ray?
Oh my God. I think now that they've officially, well, not officially, now that the nobles, the royals, have said, "Fuck Alexius, we're not giving him shit." Now he's really, I guess, he wants to make his move or the next step into getting ready. So if they do take Antioch, it will be him. So he's like, I, I gotta go. I got too much shit. I gotta go. This isn't working out. However, if if you give me Antioch, that will compensate me enough and I'll stay. And I'm kind of like the military genius here. Now, all the other nobles are like, fuck this guy. I mean, they can see right through it, but the commoners, the poor, the average soldier, they fall for this. He gets a lot of sympathy. He gets a lot of support. But the point is he's setting up the conditions that if they should take Antioch and he makes a claim for it, he's already like it's like a trial balloon. They're all like, no, he should have it because remember he was going to leave, and this was the only way we could get him to stay. So give him Antioch. It's a brilliant political move if it works. Yeah, that's what I think he's doing.
Yeah, clever strategy.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, the Turks are still waiting for their relief forces to arrive, but Ducoc and his guys from Damascus have decided, yeah, fuck that shit. They've gone home. They're not
Yeah.
coming.
No.
So Yogi Bear turns to his former boss, Ridwan of Aleppo,
Right?
who by now seems to have regretted not coming in to support him in the first place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he forces Yogi Bear to bend the knee and swear again an oath of
Again.
loyalty again.
Right.
And he sends a troop to come to their rescue, assisted by his cousin Sukuman, the Otokid, and his father-in-law, the Emir of Hama.
Mm-hmm.
And by early February, there ready to attack the Crusaders' camp. Now, when the Crusaders heard about this, they held another Prince's Council. It was
Right.
there that Bohemans suggested that what they have left of infantry, 700 or so guys, should make a surprise attack on the invading army, whilst the infantry stayed to protect the camp.
Right. I think you meant the cavalry of
Cavalry,
700. Yep. Cavalry will
yes,
go attack
sorry.
the. No, the cavalry will attack the relief force. The infantry will stay here to keep the soldiers in the city in check. And if we can surprise them, then maybe we can wipe out this relief force. And again, it's not really going to help us have food, but again, we're not going to die. So, and again, this is a pretty solid plan. So they all agree. So on the night of February 8th, the Frankish cavalry sneak out. They cross the bridge of boats, which is not the main road, and they're able to sneak around. And yeah, the next morning they're able to lay in wait. The Turkish relief force comes into view. The knights attack right away. And normally, what would happen at this point, and we've all seen this a billion times in movies, certainly think of Agincourt or Braveheart, that normally you would line up, the Turkish army would line up their many numbers of archers, throw a whole bunch of arrows into the air and just come down on the knights. But they don't have time. The crusading cavalry are coming too quickly, and they're able to hit the Turks before the archers could line up. And now they're the ones who are panicking. So again, this plan has worked brilliantly so far.
Yeah, I think the Turks were also advancing across the Iron Bridge when the Crusaders attacked.
Mm,
So, they can't get into formation. All of that kind of stuff is going on. Some of them are on the bridge anyway, a large number of them.
right.
So, um, the cavalry attack the Turks. They can't break them though, and they withdrew. But in
Yeah.
doing so, lured the Turks into the battleground that they had chosen, where they had a lake on the left and the river on the right.
Brilliant.
It prevented the Turks from being able to outflank them. And so the knights charge again, this time in full force. And this time the Turks broke and fled, spread confusion in the lines behind them, and the
Panic,
whole of
baby.
Ridwan's army is in full retreat back to Aleppo.
It's just chaos, and the garrison they had taken over, they had reconquered and set men there, joined them on their way back, and like you said, they literally panic all the way back to Aleppo. So this is another relief force that is defeated by brilliant tactic, desperate but brilliant tactics. Again, it doesn't change the overall board. It doesn't create food out of nowhere, but the point is it worked. So the infantry, so the cavalry starting to come back. But meanwhile, the infantry still at camp has their own drama going on.
Yeah, but like just for a second, let's give Bohemond
Oh
credit
yeah,
here. Like
the two step.
700 cavalry
Yeah,
to break this army and send them back. Like Bohemond with his tactics of
yep.
waiting till they're on the bridge, attacking, then drawing them, then like running away,
Yeah. Run away.
drawing them back to a battleground that you've chosen where they can't outflank you with their greater numbers and then just hit them with the full force of your cavalry. This is
Brilliant.
Alexander or Napoleon level
Exactly.
tactical genius. This guy knew what he was doing. Like he was a
He's the real
complete
deal.
badass in
Yes.
terms of
Yes.
using smaller numbers to defeat a greater force by picking your battleground, picking your tactics, hitting them at the right time in the right place in the right way. The guy
Yeah.
deserves the sort of credit that history gives him for being a tactical military genius.
Yeah. And deception.
Um,
Deception is a wonderful ploy to use in battle, and he does it brilliantly.
yeah, he's studied
Yeah.
the best. He knows what he's doing. So meanwhile, with the cavalry away, Yogi Bear saw his chance and attacked the camp. The infantry who remained there had put up a brave battle, but were beginning to lose ground when late in the day, a bit like at the Battle of Waterloo, their troops return, and as they get closer, Yogi Bear understands that his relief army was beaten and
Right.
called his men back within the walls of Antioch. It's like Napoleon at Waterloo. Um, Late in the day, it's 4 o'clock. He thinks he's won. He's defeated
Yeah.
Wellington and the British, and it's all tied up nice and neatly with a bow. And then
Right.
the
Fucking
fucking
reinforce.
Prussians come in at the last minute. He's like, "Oh fuck!"
Fuck. I had this. I had this. But yeah, that's what it's about. So now that this attempt, well, one, the relief force is removed. Two, the troops, the Turkish troops coming out of the city are checked. They're sent back into the city. So the entire situation goes back to the question of supplies. So supplies are still coming in by ship, but again, there's like that 12-mile road from the coast to the camp. The Turks are watching it. They try to raid as these supplies are coming in. And not only that, but Yogi Bear is still able to get his own supplies in through the gate of St. George. So again, because no one can win an overall outright military victory, it reverts back to being about supplies.
Yeah, the Crusaders have had a couple of victories, and so morale is lifted, but they're still starving.
Exactly.
So that's not good.
No.
However, at this time, supplies are still coming in from Cyprus,
Hmm.
also coming in from maybe Tatikius, sending stuff from Constantinople. Um, but the road down to the sea, where the supplies are coming in from Cyprus and maybe from Constantinople, they're getting raided by parties that are slipping out of Antioch
Oh yeah.
through the unguarded gate of St. George,
Hmm.
across the fortified bridge. But then on the 4th of March, 1098, a
Right.
fleet manned by Englishmen, commanded
Are
by the exiled claimant to the throne, Edgar Atheling, sailed
right.
into St. Simeon. How much do you
Yeah.
know about Edgar Atheling?
I don't know much. I know that he is the son of Edward the Exile, who himself is the son of King Edmund Ironside, which is a pretty cool fucking name. So when Edmund Ironside dies, Edward the Exile, our Edgar's father, gets refuge in Hungary, and he was actually made. He was elected the king by the Witan, the Council of King of the Anglo-Saxon government, but he's never crowned. And the Danish king Canute in 1016 is able to take the English throne. So the point is, he was technically it's almost like I was going to make a Bush Gore joke, but anyway, so he was voted in by one council to be king, but he's never crowned. And I guess what is he just looking to make his way in the world, being a king who's not a king?
He had an interesting relationship with the Normans.
Mm,
He was sort of exiled there at one point and then fought against them, sort of had a deal with
complicated.
William the Conqueror that went sour. And yeah, so he sort of had sort of fractious relationships with the Normans.
Right.
But now he turns up with an English fleet to support them.
Yes.
Now, when it arrives, it not only brings men,
Mm-hmm.
they had pilgrims from Italy that were on their way. He had stopped at Constantinople, placed himself under the orders of the emperor,
Mm,
and the ships, the fleet, probably because of Tacticius saying to the emperor, hey, these guys are going to fail if we don't help them.
right.
It had been loaded with siege engines, siege materials, and mechanics who arrived. So finally, the
Yes.
Crusaders have siege engines, the thing that
Thank
they've needed
Christ.
for how many months now? It's like December,
So is it
January,
five,
February,
5 months, something like that?
March, four and a bit months they've been sitting
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
with their
Yeah.
dicks in their hands. Now they have siege
Yeah.
engines.
Now
And
this.
they were
Yeah.
provided by the emperor, who they think has
Exactly.
betrayed them.
Right. It's
Now they're
murky.
like,
It's
yeah,
complicated.
wow.
Yeah.
Look,
Yeah.
let's
We
let's
don't.
not say who sent them. Let's just, You don't.
We don't do
God
facts.
sent them, really.
Right. If you think about it,
Uh,
it was
if
God.
you think about it, yeah. So
Yeah.
should we re-swear our oaths of loyalty to the emperor who saved the day? I
Fuck
don't. I
no.
don't know. Like,
Fuck no. No, but you're right. Between the siege materials and the mechanics, who are the ones who will be operating this, this is really good news. In fact, this is such good news. Raymond and Bohemian make up. Nope, that's actually not true at all. They still fucking hate each other. In fact, they don't trust each other so much. They both go to the coast. One, they want to recruit some of the men who are on these ships. And two, obviously, they both want to bring their own men to escort these materials and the mechanics back to the camp. Again, they're literally keeping an eye on each other because they don't trust each other. And in early March, on March 6th, they're on their way back to camp. But as we said before, the troop carrying Turkish units who have come out of the city once again.
yeah. So they get attacked. They are taken by surprise. The troops fled in panic, leaving all of the siege engines and everything else in the hands
Fuck.
of the Turks.
Fuck.
A
Right.
few stragglers rushed into camp and spread the rumor that both Raymond and Bohemond had been killed.
Oh shit.
Godfrey, who had not been well, we haven't heard
Right.
much from Godfrey for a while,
Yeah.
but Godfrey prepares his troops to go
Yeah, the
out and
runs.
rescue what's left of the left of the army.
Right.
While he's going out to
Yeah.
defend them, Yogi Bear makes a sudden attack from the city against the camp to provide cover for the raid party who are now returning with the siege engines and the rest of the booty.
Yes.
Godfrey's men are
Good
already
plan.
armed, so they're about to go off to sort of support their guys. They're able to hold back the
Yeah.
attack. As they're doing that, Raymond and Bohemond appear. They're
Or
like, "I thought you were
ghosts.
dead."
Right.
No, no, no. The
Not today,
rumor of their
bitch.
deaths were
Right.
greatly exaggerated. Yeah. Come back with their surviving forces. They're weakened, but they're able to help Godfrey drive the Turks back into the city. Then they united to
Right.
intercept the raiders that have the
Yes.
booty, and they're able to,
Right.
and who aren't able to move quickly because they've got the booty. So then they're outmaneuvered
Right.
and massacred as they try and reach the bridge. So the
Oh
siege
God.
engine materials are recovered by the Crusaders. It said that
Right.
1,500 Turks were killed, many of them drowned trying to cross the river. And among the dead were 9 emirs. So a lot of the leadership of the Turks are dead. And I like this story. That evening,
Right.
members of the Turkish garrison crept out to bury the
Right.
dead in the Muslim cemetery that was on the north bank of the river.
Of
The
course.
Crusaders watched them and didn't
Right.
interfere. But the
See,
next
respect.
morning,
Respect. Oh. Oh.
sure, respect for
Sorry.
the dead. No, they were just tired. The next morning, they went out and dug up the corpses
Fuck.
and
It can't
stole
be
all of the
right.
gold and silver ornaments that they were buried with because, fuck them.
Fuck. Fuck. A follow up question, if I may. When Stan and Barry write the script, because this is fucking awesome. This right here, this night alone, the fight, the going back and forth. When the movie comes out in 2026, should this part of it where they're literally digging up corpses looking for gold and silver on their bodies, do we include that? Do we feel like maybe that will get us a tougher rating? I
Fuck
don't know,
yes.
but this is gonna be a kick ass movie. I just can't wait. So they
Mm.
literally dig up the corpses to look for this. So the point is, remember way back when Raymond said, "Hey, we should build a fortress to kind of check some of these other gates." They went, "Well, dumbass, we don't have any material." Now they've got materials. Now they've got mechanics. So they're going to build a fortress to control the approach to the fortified bridge. So again, not a ton of food, but things are looking up.
And they called it, this fortress, La Mahomerie, which was from the old French word for mosque, because it was quite close to the mosque and the
Right.
burial ground, as we've just mentioned. but it was unofficially known as the Castle of Raymond because it was Raymond's idea. Now, I believe that's what your house is called,
It is
the
the
Castle of
castle,
Raymond.
right?
Yeah.
I used to, but the land around it is called Heather's
Mhm.
Hills. We don't have to go into that, but it's something I'm very proud of. And the Castle of Raymond was
And as
finished
we know, when you first got together with it, it took you 5 years for you to
to
enter
mount those
Heather's
hills. Yeah, yeah.
Valley.
No, but I made
Uh,
it. Unlike these Crusaders,
was it worth it?
I, I've
Was it worth the wait?
I'd say yeah. I'd say yeah. We'll go into that
Okay.
later. I'll show you some videos. But the point is, the Castle of Raymond was built and it was finished by March 19th. So not in the dead of winter anymore, but food is still an issue.
Well, they're in spring now,
Yeah, they're
and
getting there.
so it's getting a little bit easier to go and forage for food. They've got a castle to defend themselves, to stop
Hmm.
raiding parties coming out from the city.
Right.
Prevented any access to that gate out of the city, the bridge gate, but the gate of St. George, the one that
Fucking
backs onto the mountains, is still open. So they decide to build a castle on that side
damn right.
of Antioch. There's an old convent on the hill that they take over and turn into a castle. It was
That's
completed
right.
in April
Yeah.
and entrusted to Tancred. So
Ooh,
from
he'll do
that
it.
moment on, by April 1098,
Yes.
no convoys of food are able to reach the city. Its inhabitants couldn't send their flocks out to pasture outside of the walls on the mountainous side.
Oh shit.
Individual raiders could still climb over the walls or get
Yeah.
through the narrow iron gate, but there's no longer any way for them to send out organized sorties to attack foraging parties for the Crusaders or to attack the Crusaders themselves. They're locked in.
Mm-mm.
The Turks are locked
Yes.
into Antioch. They can't get support. They can't get food. They begin to suffer from hunger as the Crusaders are starting to be able to forage more and more with the arrival of spring.
Yeah.
So, and soon after that, there's a huge consignment of food that was destined for Antioch being
Mm-hmm.
conveyed by Christian merchants. Tancred's able to capture that.
Hell
So
yeah.
he's like, and he's not paying a bezant for a donkey now, bitches, because
You got a sword.
controls the in and the out. He's like,
Yeah.
motherfucker, no one else is buying your food. So either you sell it at reasonable prices
Right.
or we just kill you and take it anyway.
Exactly.
So they're in a Crusaders are in a good position. However,
Yeah.
at this point, they still believe that Kerboga of Mosul is on his way with a huge army that he has been
Yeah.
gathering all the way from Iraq. So that is still the big issue. They got a little bit more food. They've
Mm-hmm.
locked down Antioch, but they still need to worry about Kerboga. And we will talk about what happens next in the next episode.